I just wait a minute while I set up a bit of this. And I'm sorry for the delay. This is a new OS I'm trying. And I decided I would use it today. So expect some technical difficulties. Okay, and one last. Okay, sorry for this delay and sorry for these technical difficulties. So, hello, I'm Nuno Ribeiro and I'm a DevOps Engineer at Critical TechWorks, that's part of BMW Group. Most of my adult part was a structural civil engineer, and a few years ago I decided to make a change into tech, and so I made bootcamp. Intense bootcamp and entered into the IT world. And as I said, I work now as a DevOps engineer, and last year I was chosen as a Dagger commander for the 2024 batch. So, my talk today is how we can all unblock our PRs with AI-powered CI, using Dagger, of course. So for today, we are going to see some common problems between our dev environments, CI environments. Have you heard about Dagger before? Probably not. Yeah, excellent. Oh, more than one person. So how can we integrate LLMs with Dagger, and a small demo? But first, I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to go into the demo part for a moment, and I'm going to play the part of a lazy developer, and I'm going to push some code into production that has a small error, okay? So, a bit of context. This is a really meaningless application. What this does is, sorry. And if I go again here, and not this one, of course. Why are you not running? Yes. Okay. What this application does is it sends pings to one backend to another. One sends a ping and the other one counts the pings, okay? So, as I said before, I'm going to be a bit of a naughty developer, and I'm going to push some code into production that has a small error in a test. So basically what I did here was change the value of an expected output in a test. So this is a bit hard to do. Perfect. Okay, now back into the presentation. So, a few common problems we have with our dev and CI environments is that when we start a project, our typical workflow can be, in a CI, can be something like we check out our repository, we set up Go, we set our versions, we install our dependencies, we build, we test, and pretty much in the beginning it's all very simple. So there's not a very big risk between our dev environment and our CI environment. So about a month and a half after that, we start having our dev environment with something like this. So we install Go with Brew, we install Go in CI, we have a just file for linting, maybe we have a task file for building, we have a task file for building or testing, and we have an awesome do-it-all script for everything, and of course our Docker Compose dev environment. And that's okay, but we're starting to get some drift between our versions we have in our CI and our versions we have in our dev environment. And what it leads to something like a very big and complicated workflow. This is an example of a GitHub workflow that's becoming very, very, very complicated. And once you try to push some coding to production, we start getting these errors. And of course, we don't want that to happen. So that's where Dagger enters. So what is Dagger? Dagger is an open source runtime for composable workflows. And what it means is that our application delivery pipelines run in containers. And what does that really mean? So our usual tasks and workflows that we do in our CI workflows, we do it in functions. We can write our functions in, say, Go, TypeScript, Python, Java, PHP, and we encapsulate all those functions into modules. Okay? We can share those modules with our next project, with the community. So what this means is that we can write our functions in any of the provided SDKs, and then we can reuse those functions in another language we have chosen. So I've been talking about Dagger, and some main components of Dagger are the engine, the Dagger Cloud, that's a paid service by Dagger that lets us have a view of our pipelines, and we have our SDKs and our Daggerverse, where we can share our modules that we have written. So the Daggerverse is nothing more than an aggregation of modules that are in GitHub, and it just transposes that into a page. So we have an example here of a function that's a build function that's written in Go, and this same function can be written in TypeScript, if you want to write a Go application in TypeScript, or Python, PHP, that's your flavor, or even Java. And so what we have to do now is that we have to go in our CLI and do Dagger call build. And this call will be the same whether it's locally or in our CI environment. So if you use Jenkins and you have a Jenkins file, we'll just do Dagger call build. If we have our GitHub workflows, what we do is we use our action for get Dagger, and you do build our function. So how can we integrate LLMs with Dagger? So the main thing that makes Dagger so good, that runs everything in containers, it makes a perfect environment to run our agents, LLM agents, in CI. So what does it really mean again? So we have an LLM, be it GPT, Gemini, Claude, local models. So you are providing with the LLM with an environment with our inputs and prompts, the input being the directory and the prompt being something we want it to do, and it will loop inside the container until it has an output. And once it has an output, it will save the output into our environment. So this is an example by using the Dagger shell that we can use, and I will run this example in a script. If I manage to find all the things again, okay. So I have this script here. So if I run the script here, it will enter the Dagger shell, and it will run the script we saw. Oh, yeah. So, it's not very fun to read. So while it is running, it shouldn't be too long before it enters the terminal. Okay, so we now have a container that has all the tools needed to write a Python script. So if I go Python version, it will tell me, of course. Oh. Yeah, thank you. It's kind of hard to look into that. So we have Python 3.12.12 installed. So let's go into, sorry guys. Okay, our presentation. So in the beginning, I pushed some code into production, and I should have here a pull request. That I call lazy dev, and I will create a pull request. And what this will do is it will run the check. So it failed. Okay, this is what I wanted, because the test was failing. And of course, because I forgot to create the pull request before I did this, I have to rerun the check again. That's why it didn't submit our the LLM didn't submit the suggestion. So while this is running, let me check and run the same model, the same workflow. Okay. So if I do here Dagger call debug local, what this do is that it will run our tests, run our linters, and it will find an error in a test, and it will enter the LLM loop, and it will try to find a solution to the failing test. So I've talked about also Dagger Cloud, and if you are a developer trying to use Dagger Cloud, you can use the free service of Dagger Cloud, and it will show you the runs in a much friendly way. So you can see the run that I'm running locally here, and you can see it entered the LLM stage, and it's now trying to debug the test. So it found the problem that the test should have a 5 instead of 6, and it will now suggest the correction to the test. And this is still running. So there it is. We can see that the LLM, the agent, has told told me that the failing test had a 6 instead of a 5, it suggested that you correct the test to the 5. And so if we translate that into CI, what happens is that we can have the LLM post a review comment in our PR and say, this is the failing test. Please correct the failing test into this. Okay, still running. And again, if we go backwards and we try to see here, we can see it's still running. Okay, the test did not fail. It will try to find what are the errors. And it will see that the failing test has a wrong number, and so it will suggest, again, to correct the 6 to a 5, and hopefully it will come here into my PR and post a suggestion, I hope. Also, I talked about the Daggerverse. I can show some modules that are inside the Daggerverse, and some of my favorite modules. Well, we can search here for K3S. We can run a K3S cluster inside Dagger if we want to. So with this module, we can set up a cluster, a single node cluster, and maybe install some tools, maybe install Argo CD, install whatever we need, so we can test our application. We can install Helm and maybe run an Helm chart against this cluster. And again, if you go backwards, okay, it's not finished yet. It should be.
Like a real life, always problem.
That's the problem. I should have. Okay, it failed, and if I go up into the pull request, I should have a suggestion with the LLM. So the PR mic bot suggested that I change the 5 into a 6, and if I commit the suggestion, it will run the checks again. But this time, what I've done is it will pass the test, but what we'll do is that we'll run a security analysis inside the container that's running the applications. It will output a security report that we can then act upon it. So this is my demo. If you have any questions, you can ask now. Or maybe later, because this is it. So, in Portuguese we say obrigado. And sorry for these small hiccups. Yes, this is part. You can check out the demo source code at the repository, and you can find me inside all of these social networks. So, questions? Something that you had any doubts and you wanted to know more about it? Okay, the model I was using the Cloud Sonnet 4.5, but you can use any other model that supported GPT, Gemini. Before I changed into Cloud, I was using Gemini 2.5, and it was missing some of the suggestions. It was suggesting that I rewrite all the tests instead of just changing the number.
Any other questions?
Any other?
Yes. Does Dagger support air-gapped environments?
Sorry?
Dagger supports air-gapped environments?
Yes, that's an air-gapped environment. It's a closed environment. It's how do you say? It's encapsulated in a container. So whatever it happens inside that container is not transposed directly into our local machine. It stays in the container. You can export, but it stays encapsulated in the container. Yes, I'm using Omarchy. Yeah, that's as I was saying. I've been trying Omarchy for about a month, and this is the first time I've been talking with Omarchy, so that's why there was a bit of a problem. Sorry for that.
No worries. Can it give multiple commands on PR?
Yes, it can. Give multiple comments.
Can we achieve the same pipeline without Dagger? What is the advantage?
So you can achieve the same pipeline with Dagger. You can achieve the same pipeline in many other tools, right? You can use the same pipeline with GitHub Actions, right? So this is just an example of how you can use Dagger. And I've started using Dagger. I didn't say this, but I started using Dagger because I was getting tired of YAML, of writing YAML and Jenkins files. So I said, I'm getting tired of this, so I'm going to try this new thing called Dagger. So is it correcting code AI integrate in GitHub? Can it integrate in GitLab? Yes, it can. It can integrate in GitHub. As long as it can run in a container, it can run in the CI. Can you see the token amounts that's spent after each PR? Yes. Yes, we can. Actually, I was running this test yesterday, and the token amount amounted to about 11 cents. I don't know tokens, but it was 11 cents of a dollar. Can I include some bits of my code from the analysis? Of course you can. Yes. So we don't want to expose everything to the agent, of course. Maybe that's it. And so we can exclude some code from the analysis.